Welcome to Lesson 9. In the last few lessons, we have seen how to use our 4 guardrails: test, linting, types, and logging. You saw how Cloud Code uses these guardrails to validate and to fix its own work. Now we apply the same patterns to the front end. We will use React with TypeScript, but concepts work with any framework. The tools change, the patterns stays the same. The front-end structure mirrors the structure of the back-end. We use the SRC directory to organize all our folders similar to the back-end. We have the app folder, which has layout, providers, and code infrastructure, as you can see. It mirrors the core directory on the back-end. The shared directories hold the reusable components and utilities, as we will talk about later in the series. The features hold the vertical slices with all of the components, hooks, types, tests in one location, exactly as in the back end. Consistent organization across the full stack allows for scalable AI development. This is where we find our SRC directory. And we have our 3 directories that we talked about in the previous slide. We have the app, which has the layout, routing, and some other features like that. We have the features. This is where we have the vertical slices, so that when we add a workspace component, we're going to have it right here. I'll talk about that in just a minute. And then we have the shared directory. And we have, say, 3 or 4 features that have some same functionality. We might put that functionality in this directory so it can be shared among those 3 or 4. So these are the directories that are comparable to the directories that we've talked about in our backend. And we'll talk about those a little bit more later. Here now we're going to look at TypeScript. And for TypeScript, we go to this module here, the tsconfig.json file. And if we go and look in the code here, we see that the strict designation here is set as true. So that means that we have to be explicit in our typing. And this is kind of the front end equivalent of MyPy. When Cloud Code generates a component with the wrong type, TypeScript will catch it immediately. So by using TypeScript and setting this as true, we set our typing. Now we're going to go to Cloud Code. We're going to ask Cloud Code to run this command so that we can look at the front end to make sure the front end is working. When we run it, it shouldn't take too long. And we should get a link to a local host. And it's starting the server, as we can see here. Okay, the server should be at this location, so we're going to go to that location. See the front end here that we created. This front end is not functional at this moment because we really hadn't put any code behind it. But the idea that we were able to start it and have a front end in which we could provide some functions at some point in time. And we will do that as we move along in the lessons. And you can see if I try to send something here, later we're going to be able to do this. If I try to send something here, it fails to send. So this is, even though we have our function, we have our front end, it's not functional yet. Now we will run NSLint. So we put that in. And we see what we get here. Hopefully we will get all the tests coming up. Oh, okay, linting passed with no error. Okay, so that's what we want. Next, we're going to look at the TypeScript. We're going to run that and see what we get. Type check. And hopefully this will also pass all the tests. Looking at some certain front end and the type in check pass with no errors. So again, everything is set up as it should be. And we'll see later when we add some functionality to the front end beyond just presenting it. We will check this again. Okay, here we look at our features. And so anytime we add a new workspace component to our application, this is where it's going to be located. And this is following the philosophy of the vertical slice. Remember that we're trying to make things consistent, our organization consistent everywhere. So we already have 3 features in here. One is echo, one is health, and one is readiness. So if we were to look at those, let's look at the components. We can see echo form.playwright.ts. And this one, we have healthcard.test.tsx. And in this one, we have the readiness card.error.ts.tsx. All these things do different things, but the pattern that they follow are the same. All of them have the same named files, API.ts, same thing here, same thing here. Of course, the programming in these files is going to be different, but the consistency of the naming and the way we set up our directory here, all those things are going to remain the same. And this is very analogous to our backend, where we had models, schemas, routes, and services. On the front end, we have components, hooks, types, and API functions. So it's very comparable to our backend. Let's recap. The front end mirrors the back end, and this allows for consistent organization and keep everything the same for the AI. The guardrails match up in similar fashion. TypeScript strict mode allows for type safety. ESLint, like rough, gives linting and style. PyTest, which we'll be discussing in Lesson 10, is similar to PyTest for component testing. Again, the PIV loop is ever present as the foundation for the creation of our agentic AI applications. If TypeScript fails, Claude Code fixes the types. If ESLint fails, Claude Code fixes the issues. The same self-correction loop for the front-end content, context. In Lesson 10, we will run the test and see PyTest in action. You will see the same patterns as PyTest. Write tests, run them, and use failure to guide the fixes. Now, you don't want to miss it. Subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. In that way, you too will make this series available to more people. Also, ring that notification bell so you know when that Lesson 10 is here and available. Thank you, and see you then.